The baby bulls have successfully completed a micro bust, but can the baby bulls now turn this micro bust into a true bust? And that truly is the question that's about to change everything for the price of Bitcoin. So if you love busting big, strong, hard, and fast, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and let's absolutely completely dump into this. So one of the things we talked about yesterday was on this short-term time frame, Bitcoin right here getting back above 45,000 US dollars. And in yesterday's video, we were right about here when I made the video. And I said, this is just sideways ranging, nothing really big until we get above 45,000. And a couple 4-hour candles later, not only did we get above 45,000, but we got above 45,000 by a couple $100. And right now, Bitcoin is trying to hold that. Now, there's a lot of other things going on. The stock market, the SPX, this is very big. Yesterday, just minutes before the close, analysts were anticipating getting above 5,000 on the SPX for the first time in history. And we got extremely close. I believe we got to like 4,997, 4,998. But we haven't seen it just yet. I think it absolutely is coming very, very soon. Maybe by the time this video gets uploaded, maybe it already has come. That's kind of how close to busting we are here with the SPX. And that historically absolutely has helped Bitcoin, and I think it will absolutely continue to help Bitcoin. Now, before we continue with these charts, let's look at a few things here. So BlackRock and Fidelity now own a combined 144,640 Bitcoin, worth over $6.5 billion in their spot ETFs. This is two of the Bitcoin spot ETF issuers with over 6.5 billion in their spot ETFs. I'm going to go out on a limb and make a little crazy prediction here. I think the Bitcoin spot ETFs are going to be the most successful ETFs in the history of mankind. Okay. Pretty bold prediction, but I think it's very likely. Here also is the chart we've been following on HODL 15 Capital's page about Bitcoin basically being accumulated day by day in these spot ETFs. You see the trend continuing up there. But one big thing I want to talk about is that the best marketing that these spot ETFs can get is if the Bitcoin price continues to rise. And as we head into the halving, which is just like 2 months away, on an election year, which the market is always, whether artificial or not, pumped to try to keep the incumbent in power, very likely that we're going to see stocks and Bitcoin do extremely well, even just based on that alone, because it's an election year. Very big correlation with massive pumping and election years. We have the Bitcoin halving. We have rate cuts probably coming either in the first quarter or probably second quarter of this year. And that's going to be extremely bullish for the price, right? All of these things coming together. Now, what I just said, every $1,000 that Bitcoin goes up is good marketing, amazing marketing, free marketing for BlackRock and Fidelity and all these other ETF issuers. But every $1,000 that Bitcoin goes up above the previous all-time highs, around 70K, is absolute turbo marketing, and we have not seen any euphoria yet. I think one of the biggest things about this is that if you guys have been in the market for at least an entire cycle, the thing about euphoria, the thing about Bitcoin pumping is that it can be quiet for a really long time, and in my opinion, it's still pretty quiet. Not a lot of new people joining. Obviously, people that are spend 6 hours a day looking at Bitcoin stuff, they're excited, right? People spending all their time on Bitcoin, but for the most part, we're not seeing this crazy adoption of this bull cycle yet. The thing is, once that euphoria starts, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain how big the euphoria gets, how great the FOMO is. FOMO is such a powerful thing. It is, it's unbelievable. It's basically like a drug, a natural drug. You're not actually taking a pill or something, but when you see those prices going up and you start to see your friends, your coworkers, your family start making a lot of money and people saying, hey, you heard about this Bitcoin thing, which at this point, a lot of people already have heard of it because of the 2021, 2020 bull market. That was like the real big first mainstream taste, in my opinion. Once that FOMO kicks in, once we see Bitcoin going up $1, $2, $3, $5,000 in a daily candle, maybe $10,000 in a daily candle, as we get more and more added on to Bitcoin's market cap, the marketing the free marketing that BlackRock and these other ETFs will receive in such small amounts of time once euphoria really kicks in and Bitcoin starts pumping is going to be insane. And I think we've seen 0% of the actual euphoria. This is the pre-bust. We're not in the bust phase. We are in the pre-bust. The FOMO will kick in the bust phase, and it's coming, right? It's not super far away. You have at most, 2 to 3, 4 months maybe of the pre-bust if you're lucky. Because true bulls know what's coming. You don't really want to rush to the bust phase. Because once you're there, I don't want to say it's too late, but like the maximum gainer opportunities are gone. It's too late once we get to that bust phase. Every day that goes by, if Bitcoin's up at $5,000, $1,000 every single day, or $10,000 every week for a couple of weeks, for a couple of months, that type of euphoria, that type of FOMO is not the healthiest environment to be making your trading decisions, your long-term decisions during that kind of environment. You want to do it now when it's boring, and we're quickly running out of time. I think these ETFs are going to be insane. The amount of volume, the amount of attention they're going to bring in. Also, we have former President Barack Obama here talking about Bitcoin. He says that it's impenetrable. Encryption is so strong that there's no key, there's no door, can't crack it, governments can't get in. All 8 billion people get to walk around with a Swiss bank account in their pocket, basically giving like free good advertising. It seems like maybe he has a decent understanding of it. That's pretty big. I think day by day, more and more people are waking up to the bullishness that is Bitcoin. Now, we also look at this chart. We look at this chart here by Rect Capital. Basically, this line representing the halving, which we are within, about 2 months away from. We have the chance potentially of breaking this horizontal negative 8 degree resistance prior to the halving for the first time. Now, we haven't done it, but we've actually had a wick above this, actually. So if we're able to maintain some of these levels, specifically around 45, this could become very bullish very, very fast. And again, some people, I remember in previous cycles, people will ask like, well, fundamentally, why would it do something like that? Honestly, and I don't like repeating it, but it's too true. These Bitcoin spot ETFs are a fundamental change to the supply and demand of Bitcoin. That's why people have been saying it's a bullish thing for years. I remember when I first got into Bitcoin, like 8 years ago, roughly about 8 years ago, Bitcoin spot ETFs were a talking point back then. It was like a pipe dream, but here we are in 2024 and we have them. Beginning of 2024, Bitcoin spot ETFs were approved. One of the biggest things I believe that will absolutely affect the supply and demand of Bitcoin for a very long time. So that's absolutely very big. Now, again, I want to jump into some of these charts here. So we talked about the Bollinger Bands yesterday, very tight. We literally are getting a squeeze. As we talked about yesterday, volatility has increased. This is potentially the beginning of this move, however. We look at this chart. This is the entire cryptocurrency market cap. This box right up here, I believe is where, this is kind of my target for this bull market, sometime towards the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, or middle of 2025. But it's about a $10 trillion market cap. And just as I showed you yesterday where Bitcoin was the crypto market cap as a whole was 250 billion in 2020, and I said we go up to 3 trillion, and we went up to 3 trillion. I think a 3x roughly from there, from 3 trillion high to a $10 trillion high, is going to be absolute easy mode, complete cake mode. And that's kind of what this looks like. So I just have this on here to kind of illustrate. I think that the entire crypto market cap is going to drift, whether it's takes that long, maybe it takes less time. I think this is the target to be watching for. Currently, the market cap of the entire cryptocurrency space is $1.673 trillion US dollars. And I don't believe we've seen anything yet. Now, I do want to highlight one thing actually, is that even though I think we're about to be very bullish, I don't know if there's going to be many more bullish cycles left. I think this by far is going to be the most bullish cycle. So if we fast forward to like 2026, let's say we're in a bear market for Bitcoin, I don't necessarily know if we're going to be in 2026 thinking like, hey, get ready for the massive 2028 bull market. Maybe. I think it really depends on how things play out. It's way too early to tell that, but I think this is Bitcoin's slowly becoming more mainstream. And I believe at a certain point, it will not have as good of returns as are possible right now. So, maybe I'm wrong. That's just my opinion. That's a little less bullish of an opinion, right? I don't want to only say very, very bullish things. But another big thing about this chart is that we've pumped up now to resistance right underneath this 14-month trend line that has been crazy support and crazy resistance. If Bitcoin's actually able to break above this, get above this trend again, that is extremely bullish, I believe. Now, another thing, if we switch to the weekly chart for Bitcoin, you see this MACD, which was kind of flipping bearish. Let me zoom out here. Flipping bearish. You can kind of see we've switched. We maybe have the potential on even the weekly chart to have more bullish momentum. The daily chart was bullish. You can see the daily picking up. This is what we talked about yesterday also. But, maybe it's possible this momentum continues and translates to the weekly as well. All things start on smaller time frames, and then they kind of progress into longer time frames. And the daily chart does look more bullish. Yesterday's daily candle closed at about 44,300. Here we are currently above that. So this is going to be very big. If we can actually get a weekly close also, which there's not going to be a weekly close for about 3 more days, so we're not very close. It would be the highest weekly close Bitcoin has seen since all the way back in April of 2022, nearly 2 years ago. Weekly chart, all momentum looks pretty good. All moving averages also above everything. All key moving averages on the daily chart still. We look at this tiny chart on the 4-hour. This is big. We're kind of trying to hold on the top of this as support. Maybe we get rejected in the short term. It's not super important, but ultimately, another big thing is that we are seeing the selling from Grayscale start to die down a little bit. We're seeing inflows, as I just pointed out on this chart, seeing inflows still, or we're seeing these ETFs continue to gobble up more Bitcoin, right? Over 6.5 billion in just the top 2 spot ETFs. Very bullish. Very bullish. I think this is going to continue. And Bitcoin is right now at 45,000 US dollars. The sell the news event that people were super afraid of, which you can illustrate it right here on this chart, was this the entire sell the move event? Right? Was this it? This was maybe the peak when the ETF was approved, and then this was the sell. From very top to bottom, it went down 20% max, from 49,000 to 38,000. If that was the sell the news event, that wasn't very bearish. If it was, maybe we're still going to go down a lot, but I don't see any crazy evidence that we're just going to have a massive dump here. If anything, Bitcoin looks very bullish. And it's funny too. You fast forward in February of 2024, how many people thought we were going to be talking about a bearish target maybe to 40K? No, I mean, a couple months ago, people were telling you, hey, we're going to crash to 20K again or something. It's funny how things play out, right? It's important to remember that. And if you have a very strong bearish bias and you think, hey, we're still going to these very low targets, those have been delusional. They've been so wrong for the past 14 months. At a certain point, you have to dig your head out of the sand and understand, hey, if you were somebody who was thinking we were going to go and do something like this, believe it or not, there were a lot of charts showing this garbage, right? Actually, let me zoom out. There were a lot of people posting videos and tweets showing this absolute garbage, right? And if you were one of those people that believed in it or were making those charts, I think it's time you wake up, maybe apologize to not only the people watching you, but also to yourself for believing that. And then maybe also stop giving advice, or maybe stop. If you're one of those people, I don't want to sound like a jerk here, but honestly, if you were one of those people drawing a chart like this, maybe stop posting charts for a couple months. Maybe, go do something, go on a vacation, just go relax, and maybe try and come back with a refreshed view. Because really all we've done in the past 14 months is go up, right? So, and I don't really think that's going to be changing anytime soon. Maybe we will get a dump, but I mean, ultimately, does this market look bearish? Does this market look bearish to anyone? On an election year, 2 months from the Bitcoin halving, rate cuts incoming, risk on assets most likely going to go up, stock market did set new all-time highs, SPX about to break 5,000 for the first time in history. Is this a really bearish setup? If your answer is yes, it's a bearish setup, go to the doctor. You need medication or something. Your brain's not working. And sign up with Femex below if you want to buy Bitcoin, altcoins, or do any type of trading. Without any further ado, that's it for me.